Like, comment, subscribe. This is just saying this is for educational purposes only. Jesus is Lord, Jesus is
between the
King.
Arabs and the Africans. It's between Muslims and so-called black people.
Listen to that.
I mean, I've talked about this before, that there does appear to be an orchestrated effort, an orchestrated campaign to drive a wedge between the Muslims and Africans, between the Arabs and the Africans, between Muslims and so-called black people. You see it on social media. So you're seeing more and more content now talking about, so-called Muslim colonization of Africa, Muslim imperialism and so forth in Africa and whatnot. Talking about the trans-Saharan slave trade and calling the trans-Saharan slave trade the Arab or the Muslim slave trade and so forth. Trying to portray it as if our history in Africa is similar to Western history.
The
or worse
truth is
than Western
finally
history in
coming
Africa.
out.
And the reason is obvious. The reason is obvious. If you go by population, Africa is a Muslim continent. By population. If Lebanon is a Muslim country, if Indonesia is a Muslim country, if we call these Muslim countries, then Africa is a Muslim continent. You understand? By population numbers. An honest census would show that more than half of all Africans are Muslim. And of course, you don't want Muslim cohesion. You don't want Muslim solidarity. You don't want Muslim unity. And obviously, this campaign to drive a wedge between the Muslims on the basis of skin color, so-called race, is a Western campaign. Because you hate Africans and you hate Muslims. You are racist. And for you, being African, being so-called black, exceeds being Muslim in terms of identity. So you see Africans as black rather than as Muslim, rather than even as Christian or anything else. You see them as black. They are and can only ever be what you think of them as. So this division actually makes sense to you, to Westerners. And you think that everyone else in the world must think of themselves according to the way that you think about them. Right?
Wrong. That's
Obviously, this is
facts. You
colonized
speaking
thinking. It's colonizer
facts. He's
thinking,
speaking the truth.
and it is colonized thinking for any non-Westerner to think this way.
Facts.
They want you to believe that Muslim history in Africa is like their history, or worse than their history, and that Muslims are racist like them. But notice who they're talking to. Notice who they're talking to, who they're targeting with this message. They're not targeting Muslims. We're not their target audience for that message, because they know that message can't get anywhere with us. They know that won't get anywhere with us. So you have to look at this. You have to look at who's being aimed at before you even look at the content of the attack. That's the first move in trying to figure out what's really going on and who's behind it. Most people skip that part. They just get pulled straight into arguing over the content instead of asking the prior question, which is, why is this argument circulating now and aimed at this particular audience now, and who does that serve?
Facts.
No one's running content, no one's funding pages, no one has bot networks set up to convince Muslims and Arabs that black Africans are their historical enemies. You understand me? They're not trying to incite racial hatred amongst Muslims. There's no Muslim Nick Fuentes or something. You understand? There's no manufactured Muslim influencer on the internet arguing that Africans have inferior IQs or what have you. That's not coming from us. There's no equivalent of white nationalist rhetoric being directed at the Muslims to try to stoke our supposedly latent hatred and racism. That effort doesn't exist. Ask yourself why. It doesn't exist because it wouldn't work. There is no reservoir of racial hostility in the Muslim world and the Arab world sitting there waiting to be tapped. No. There is nothing resembling the psychological terrain that you need to make a campaign like that land. See, you can't manufacture rage out of nothing, hatred out of nothing. Propaganda doesn't create feelings from a blank slate. It locates feelings that already exist and it redirects them or manipulates them. Like those white nationalist types, okay? You can have that in the West, you can have that in America because those racist, white supremacist sentiments exist. They never stopped existing. So you can have your Nick Fuentes types, you can have your alt-right types, right? Jordan Peterson, whatever, Douglas Murray, Sam Harris, and so forth, selling that same old racist rhetoric, that white supremacist rhetoric to so-called white people in the West.
Facts.
You can do that there because you're activating and you're stoking racial hatreds and hostility that's already there, that already exists. But that's not going to get anywhere among Muslims. Not Arab Muslims, not Asian Muslims, certainly not African Muslims. So the audience is the black diaspora and non-Muslim Africans, mostly Christians. Because, let's be honest, being Christian and African is very often a marker of having a colonized mentality. So that's the audience. That's the audience. That's who you're trying to convince that the Muslims were abhorrent and were monsters in Africa, that the Arabs were, that Muslims are racist and so forth. You have non-Muslims telling other non-Muslims how Muslims are because you can't successfully get Muslims to be the way that you're saying we are. So you have to remove us from the conversation. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, usually when you want to stoke racial hatred,
He's speaking
you'll do it by
facts.
tapping into real existing bigotry in the community that you want to exhibit racism.
A lot of this is going
Right? You
on
get them
right
to say
now,
racist things.
and
You
we
get them
know
to do
why.
racist things.
So we need to
Now
stay
they've proven how
strong as a
racist they are.
community and come
Because they
together
actually are.
and get off of other
That's how
mess.
you create racial
Get
division.
up off all the wrong
Again, like a Nick
for
Fuentes or a
nothing.
Charlie Kirk. But there is no Muslim Nick Fuentes, there's no Muslim Charlie Kirk. There is no vein of racial hatred that you can tap into. So you bypass the ones that you want to behave badly, which is us, because we won't accommodate you with acting badly. And instead you just go to the people that we supposedly hate and tell them behind our backs how bad we are, leaving us completely out of the conversation. Do you see how this works? You have to leave us out of the conversation. So, like I say, you take this message to so-called black people directly. You take it to them directly and tell them how bad we are. And there is a
Like,
feeling that
comment,
already exists
subscribe.
in real and justified abundance in black and African communities